Is your portfolio hire ready? By the end of this, you're going to know if your portfolio is ready for the games or animation industry. And you're also going to know exactly where you need to focus to get your work to that level. My name is Jack Bohm. I'm a concept artist and I've worked on Fortnite, Star Wars, and Mr. Beast. I have over 230,000 followers on TikTok and socials, and my goal is to get you and 100 other artists into the games and animation industry. Okay, as we know, studios actually hire portfolios and not degrees. So you could go to college for 10 years and have a great degree from the best school in the world, and they would not care. The industry only cares about what you can do. So what that means is we need to get our portfolio in tip-top shape. It needs to be flawless. And we can actually do this in 3 ways. The first is we need to run a test. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go through 6 categories, each of them giving us a simple test to look at and figure out what we couldn't see on our own. The second part is we're gonna take the test and we're gonna score 1 through 3. 1 is not there yet, 2 is we're getting there, and 3 is we are ready for the industry. The most important part of this is just to be honest, because honesty is gonna help you identify which areas you need to target. And 3 is we're gonna add everything up. So by the end, we're gonna add up all of our scores and see where we fall. Most artists actually fall between 6 and 12, so that's completely normal if you land in that range. Okay, so the first test is drawing fundamentals. And the crazy part about this one is that every single art director and recruiter can just spot this from a mile away. So this is super important. You want to make sure that your fundamentals are solid. What that means is that your body parts in the right space, the right shapes, right proportions, everything looks 3-dimensional and solid. One of the ways you can actually test this, and I'll show this on screen, is you can flip your drawing. And flipping your drawing will refresh your eyes and help you see some of the mistakes that you might have missed before. So go ahead and flip your drawing and ask yourself, does the body feel solid, like it could turn around? Could it be easily sculpted if I gave it to a 3D artist? If you can draw your character from any angle with comfort and no problem, then you're doing pretty good. If you're looking at your drawing and the proportions are off, maybe parts look flat or melted, messy anatomy, then that's going to be an area you can focus on to improve and get your portfolio to a better spot. All right, next up we have value, which is your lights and your darks, your blacks and your whites. And this is essentially the way that we see everything in value. So what we want to do is we want to look and check with our color turned off if we can identify which areas have the highest contrast of value. Those highest contrast areas are going to be our focal points. If you notice that your focal point is somewhere it shouldn't be, so let's say you have a character and you have like a buckle, and that buckle has like a super white bright spot and a super black dark spot right next to it, that might be an area you can focus on and improve. We actually want our highest contrast points to be in our face or hands, maybe a weapon. Basically anywhere you want the viewer to look first is where you want your high contrast points to be. Anywhere outside of that should be lower contrast. You should have less going on in those spaces. So if your work has great contrast points already, it's built in, your eye goes immediately to that spot when you look at your design, that's good. If it's not quite there yet, maybe your values are muddy and your eye goes to the wrong spots, then that's an area that we could actually improve. So go ahead and pause and rate yourself on that right now. All right, next up we have silhouette. And the silhouette is the outline that you get when you turn your character completely to black. This is without color or without value. What we want to look for is when you turn your character to black, can you still tell who they are? Is the shape interesting, or does it kind of just become a generic silhouette of a person or animal? If you are higher ready, this will be readable instantly. You'll have interesting shapes with a lot of variety, and your poses and your items will still read. One other thing you can do to test this is put your character into a sheet with a bunch of iconic designs, like really popular designs. And if you can still tell it apart, that's a good sign. If it gets kind of generic and feels a little bit weaker, that might be an indication that you can actually improve this part of your portfolio. So go ahead and pause again and just score 1 through 3 on this one. Next up, we have shape language. So circles will be soft and friendly, squares are strong, steady, maybe stubborn, and triangles are often dynamic, dangerous, they have an edge to them. So one of the ways that we can do this is look at the big shapes on your character. Do they match the personality you want? You can ask a friend what feeling this character gives, and if it matches what you intended, that's pretty good. If it doesn't, there's room for improvement. Another area that you want to keep an eye out for is if all the shapes feel random and inconsistent, that's an area that you can improve. Or if all the shapes feel too consistent, sometimes that's an area that also might need to be improved. So take a look at those things. pause and score yourself 1 to 3 on this one as well. Now, if you're doing this worksheet and you're already noticing some areas that could be improved, good, keep going, that's great. Keep scoring as honestly as you can. And at the end, I'm gonna show you the fastest way to close these gaps. Okay, next up, we have storytelling and gameplay. So what is this? Good design tells you who the character is and what they do. So if I look at your character, I should be able to tell what their story is, what their gameplay is. And one of the ways that we can test this is we can flash the design on the screen for 5 seconds. So again, you can run this by a friend and try it yourself. Let them look at your design for 5 seconds and then ask, who is this and what do they do? If people can understand really quickly who this character is and what they do, then you're in a good spot. That's a good design. If they're struggling to figure out who this character is and what they do, that's going to be an area with room for improvement. So go ahead and pause one more time, score yourself 1 to 3 on this. And finally, polish. Now this one is a little bit broad, but what I did is actually threw multiple things into this category, and I kind of split it in 2 parts. One, the first is how clean and complete does the final art look? So your edges, your materials, your polish, everything should be nice and tight. There shouldn't be a bunch of loose lines and messy, sloppy drawings. Your materials want to look like the material they're supposed to be. If it's cloth, make sure it looks like cloth. If it's metal, make sure it looks like metal. And then the second half of this is how professional is the presentation and the layout. So look at professional concept art and notice how they lay things out, the information they provide. Sometimes they'll even do reference callouts like, oh, this material should be this, or I'm referencing these shapes from nature. Whatever that is, make sure that it's included to give context to the 3D modelers or the team that would look at this. So if your work has these things, then you're in a pretty good spot. If it doesn't, maybe it looks a little sloppy, needs a little bit of work, or needs to be laid out in a better composition, then that's an area that we could improve on. And for the last time, go ahead and pause, take a moment, score 1 through 3, and we'll move on to adding things up. Okay, so finally, we're gonna add up our score, go through drawing fundamentals, values, silhouette, shape language, storytelling, and gameplay, and polish. Once you've gone through all of these, you're gonna tally up your total score. Most artists are gonna land between 6 and 12. Again, like I mentioned at the beginning, that's super normal. It just means that there's a gap between where your portfolio is now and where it needs to be to become a professional. The good news is that gap can actually be fixed a lot faster than you realize, and I'll show you how that works in a second. If you scored above 12, that either means your eye is sharp and you're very close, or more often than people realize, the last gap is actually very difficult to see in your own art. Regardless, both are worth a second set of eyes. So now we see the gaps between where your work is and where the professional line is, but seeing them is not closing them. So whether you scored 6 through 12 or even above 12, I would recommend a free portfolio review. What I do is I'll look at your art just like with this test, and I'll help you identify which areas you need to improve. Look at the bottom of your scorecard and there's a link. That link is a Calendly link where you can schedule an appointment with me one-on-one completely for free, and I'll help you to notice where your work can be improved and target your weak points. So if you want to get hired in the game or animation industry, it comes down to your portfolio. Book an appointment, I'll take a look, and we'll get you in.